first series finale of Phrasally Verbocious. Series 1, Episode 8 brings us to a close to our first season and the start of our summer holidays. So we'd just like to say thanks to anyone and everyone who has listened to us so far. Tonight, or this morning, depending on when you're listening, we'll be talking about job interviews as an English teacher. Alan, don't you think that ELT interviews are the same as any other job interview?
No, because generally I find with a normal job interview, a regular job interview, the interviews are more, you either one person or a panel interviewing you, whereas especially with people moving around this industry quite a bit, I generally find the interviews, if you're trying to work out if you want to go somewhere new or somewhere different, I generally find the interview has to be a lot more two-way. And for me personally, I would have a lot more questions for them as they generally do for me. Although that might just be me. What do you think?
No, I think I typically have a list of questions as well. I'd like to think perhaps it's because I do this in ELT, but I would think if I went back into any other kind of industry, I'd probably end up doing the same thing, because maybe that's just maturing as a professional within a job as well. Because I think for you to have a good experience at a job, you need to be confident with where you're going, and you're only going to find that out by asking the right questions. Going to work somewhere for potentially 9 hours a day. In a 9-to-5 job, that's 9 hours in a business. Now, that may not be the case with some of the jobs that we do. I know that our working evening can be maybe more like 6 hours, although you might be going in at other points in the day to do other bits of work. You have to know that you're comfortable where you're going to be going and working. Now, you can't really know until you're there, and you can't really know until maybe a few weeks or months in.
Yeah, I think because I've done my 20 questions for academies, and I've like a month in just gone, hang on. You never really, like, you can even be in the academy, but you're never really gonna know until you've been there for a couple of weeks, really.
No, of course not. And I think also it's one of those things that we're all individuals, and there's nothing wrong with a place just because you don't necessarily like it. But you know what you like and you know what you value in somewhere you work, and asking questions to find out if the employer or the recruiter is on the same page as you with the things that you find important and that you value means you're more likely to have a good experience when you get there. And maybe it's going to be a place where you might stay for longer, and maybe you'll be able to give and take more from that experience.
Yeah, I think it's also a very simple thing of you have to get on. You have to actually like the people that are there as well. I remember I've spoken to some academies, and instantly it's just like, whoa, wouldn't want to be here 6 hours a week. Where other people I've just sat and had a conversation with, and it's been great.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we need to. I want to be really clear. And I want to be really clear about this. It's not that place is not necessarily a good place to work. It's just that you wouldn't be a fit. And I think we have to get away from the mindset of thinking that they're checking whether you'll be okay for them only. And the interview actually is also you checking that they're going to be okay for you. And I often find it's less the answers to questions that I ask during interviews and more the way they respond to my questions. So when I ask about things that are really important to me in terms of where I'm going to go and work, I don't really listen to the answer when I'm met with surprise that I asked the question.
Yeah.
If it's the right kind of surprise, right? So, oh, well, of course we. Or, yes. And I think, okay, so this person's surprised that I felt the need to ask this. They obviously don't know what else goes on in the industry. Or they don't know what else goes on at other places, but they do things the way I like to do them, which means that this is going to be a fit for me as well as for them.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, everybody has different ideas as to what suits them and what doesn't, and it is the reason why I do. So, I mean, I have an A4 page, and down I turn it into 2 columns. What I do, if I have any interviews, I have 22 questions on that A4 page. It's not a case of do they answer it the right way or the wrong way. It's how they answer, and do I think that would be a good fit for me teaching in it. I think it's a good point actually that now that I've been teaching, this would be my 7th year teaching. You're right in that if I went like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I was a software developer, and generally in those interviews you would maybe only have 3 questions. Whereas now, maybe it is just a mature and experience. I probably would ask them a hell of a lot more questions. But just like in that industry, the done thing was maybe 2 questions at the end, and that was about it.
Yeah, I think that's fairly common. I do think it's to do with the way you approach it as well. But maybe also the mindset of those of us who do move around quite a lot is that we get to know what we like. And because we're not necessarily going for that job or that city, we're more at liberty to ask the questions and make the right decision about going there.
Yeah.
I mean, it works in both directions. Some people are happy to go anywhere, so they'll go anywhere. Other people know what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to go there unless they get the right thing, because it's not the right move for them.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking in quite abstract terms, I think, about the things that we ask about because of the things that we like. What sort of things are important for you? I think this might help the listeners a bit.
Yeah, it would. I think certain things. I mean, even this year I moved around quite a bit. There's certain things that, if possible, I would always like. I think a lot can be said for having your own classroom, which is always a major thing. That's generally my big one. Technology in the classroom. I do like a screen. I do like showing people things. I do like projecting things. Again, didn't have it this year. Live with it, but would prefer the material. On top of that, yeah, maybe just my own room and not running around a city.
So based in one place.
Yeah.
I think hours are important as well, and I think being clear about the way the hours are distributed. I know that I did an interview once where I got offered the job, and absolutely everything else about it I liked. I was excited by it, and it was a good offer. And then this is the very beginning of my doing TAFL and not asking questions. And then I saw the hours, and they were spread out. You see, it was like a peripatetic job.
Yeah, see,
So it was a normal working week. It was the working week that they'd advertised on the adverts. But when you looked into it, it was an hour here. They need an hour to get to the next place and do an hour. But of course, that was only 2 hours worth of work, even though you've been going for 3.
Yeah.
So it would be paid for 7 hours over a 12-hour day. As a 21-year-old, when I just finished university and wanted something exciting, that might have really suited me.
Yeah, I think in my first year in Spain, now I worked out. I've mentioned it in the podcast before, the Disastrous Academy. I was just glad to be getting my first year under my belt in Spain, so I didn't really question the hours at the time. Mm-hmm. But looking back on it, I was mad. Basically, the hours, off the top of my head, if I can remember them correctly, they were 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Then they were 12:45 to 2:30. Yeah. Then I had a 1 hour class from 4:30 to 5:30. Then I had to move academy to a different academy in the city, and then it was from 6 o'clock to 8:30.
Yeah.
Which was just mad.
But this is what I was meaning, and I think when I didn't take this job because it didn't suit me for what I wanted at that time. But I do genuinely think that had I been, well, however many years younger, not even just for getting a year under my belt, I think I would have been excited by all the different things. So it's not that job was not a good job, it was that it wasn't the right job for me at the time. Had I asked the question, I would not have got so excited about the situation. I wouldn't have told the recruiter how excited I was and how interested I was. If I'd have simply asked that question, I would have gone, oh, no, this isn't going to work for me.
So if you're having an interview with an academy, what sort of alarm bells would start ringing in your head if the questions weren't being answered greatly or suitably?
Well, this links quite nicely to what we've just been saying. If I ask about blocked hours, and I don't get confirmation, or the job I'm moving to at the moment, I asked the question about blocked hours, and I've just got this baffled face looking back at me and sort of saying, "Of course." Naturally, and I said, "Well, it's not though."
Yeah, because some places won't say that or won't tell you that or won't even plan it.
Well, not only that, but some places don't do that, let alone not tell you about it. That would be one of them. I think anything where there's a lack of clarity.
Sort of a politician's answer to something.
If you're asking a direct question. If I'm asking a direct question, it's not that I'm being difficult, it's that I don't want to waste their time and mine, basically. And I do mean it like that, their time and mine, in pursuing something only to turn up and go, well, that's not how you told me it's going to be, I'm off, because this isn't going to work for me. In the same way that you're not going to want to employ me unless I answer the questions in the way that you want to hear them, So I think there's a lack of clarity or uncertainty. And I don't think there are any specific. Ours is an important one, but I think there are very few answers that are in themselves red lights.
Yeah, I think it's a sort of build-up of maybe a few questions that aren't answered
that's
confidently.
What I mean is, I don't think it's the actual answers. I think it's the way that they're approached.
Yeah.
If someone says to me, the hours are blocked, fine. Is it all in one site? No. Morning classes are in X and afternoons are in Y, or Mondays through Wednesdays are going to be in X, but Thursdays and Fridays are in Y. Okay, not enamoured by having to be in different places, but you give me a direct answer.
Yeah.
Whereas, we've obviously, you've seen our website. We've got a few different sites, and teachers teach in different places. Okay, so what would my role be like? Oh, well, it depends. No, that's my red light.
Yeah.
Tell me yes, the role means I work here and I work here, and that doesn't mean I'm not going to be happy. It just means I understand what I'm signing up to.
I think overall
if everything else lines up, then I'm not going to have one thing like that necessarily throw me off. But if people don't give me a direct answer to the question, then I don't feel like I'm going to be in a safe environment.
Yeah. One of the biggest alarm bells I had going off was when an unnamed academy were trying too hard to sell it as a holiday destination.
Well, the job?
Yeah. As in, this destination is great because X, Y, Z. Is like, no. I want to talk about the academy. He's like, oh, no, don't worry about that. The location, you can do this, you can do that. Is like,
I think this also touches on the things we were talking about earlier on in the season to do with professionalism. And if you're going in as a professional teacher, what you need back is professional behaviour from the academy in terms of answering questions directly, telling you how things really are, and focusing on the work, because you're there to contribute to the work of the academy, teach lessons, produce materials, attend, give, share it, training and meetings. If that's not what the focus of the interview is about, then that's an alarm bell for me, because that means that's not what the academy is about.
Yeah. I think because that's actually I have a 3-point question for academies, and it's like, could you tell me about what meetings the academy does, what sort of support's offered, and is there support for going to conferences, which I always find quite an interesting response. I remember speaking to an academy going, we have one meeting at the start of the year, one meeting at Christmas, and that's it. They then said, as for support, you can converse, and then conferences, we don't do conferences. Fair enough for some, but I find that very, very off-putting for me personally anyway.
Yeah, and I think, I've said it earlier on, but I'll say it again, that I think that's the key thing, is that may not be a problem for some people.
Yeah, some people just like to rock up and do it, whereas I think, because I didn't have very many meetings this year, so I think that I actually would prefer, we've talked about this before, would prefer more of a group teacher sort of camaraderie, team building thing.
But that's something that comes from, again, in the experience is, and finding yourself actually that you missed that. Other people maybe don't want that, regular or daily or whatever it might be meeting. Other people do want that, and that's what I mean by it. Isn't there any silver bullet questions in that you just need to ask about things that you care about.
Yeah.
So that in the same way that they're asking what they care about, they're asking you how you do this, how you do that, so they know if you're going to fit with their way of doing stuff. You have to ask them about things that bother you.
Yeah. Because because they're going to be doing the same thing, and they're going to need reassurances as well that you're not going to, jump ship at Christmas, or maybe you're not great at teaching a level that you say you are great at, that kind of thing. I think that was actually a problem I had when I first started teaching, when I moved from Ireland to Spain, actually, was like, now, North Antrim accent, 6'2" male. Let's be honest, Northern Ireland accent, not the friendliest accent in the universe. So I actually had a few academies going, are you sure you're good with kids?
Yeah. Sure.
Which was actually a hindrance to me first. Even though, I might be sitting with Kids Box sitting beside me or something else. So yeah, I completely understood coming from that.
Yeah, well, I've known you 3 years and I still find it incredible how good you are at the little kids.
Yeah, everybody finds it weird, yeah.
Yeah.
Some people like being the clown, what can I say? Yeah.
Exactly. I think it's also worth remembering in the same way that they're probably interviewing, however many dozen people for your position. Hopefully you're interviewing quite a few academies for your presence as well.
Yeah, it's not like we talked about earlier, other industries where you may only have one or two.
Well, maybe just that interview.
Yeah, I remember when I was first starting, I remember interviewing for. I was speaking to 4 different academies in the one day, because you do have that ability in this industry. It's not just they interview a dozen of you. You could be interviewing for a dozen different places too.
It's not often that we can claim a sort of an employment perk in ELT, but I think this is definitely one of them. Is that there's always somewhere else.
Yeah, if you're willing to go somewhere, there is always work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of almost part of the package when you decide to work in ELT. But there is always somewhere else, and that means that you've not necessarily just to take it in the way that you might feel that you have to, and that you feel, if I ask questions, am I going to put them off hiring me? Well, if they do, I don't want to work there.
Yeah.
I don't want to work somewhere where me asking them questions about their working pattern, or whether I have my own room, or what course books they use, or whether they will support me in attending conferences. If those questions put them off hiring me, then me working there's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to get on. And I go back to I don't want to waste their time or mine.
I think that's one thing. It's seen as tacky in other industries, but in this industry, it's fine to talk about. Whereas in your first interview, because I know when most job adverts, competitive salary, it is perfectly fair to ask what your wage is, net and gross. Because there's not I don't remember a lot of job adverts that actually state what your wage is in this industry. So it is a perfectly valid thing to discuss as well.
I think so, and I think again, we don't do it as charity.
Yeah.
It's a job, so that means I do need to know what money you're offering to pay me. Interestingly enough, I've just done a quick search on TOEFL.com. The top result in Spain at the moment does put a salary on it.
Okay.
The second one, salary discussed upon application. The third one puts a salary, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that's actually normally against what they normally do. Sometimes it does depend on time of year as well.
Time of year as well. It's getting close to when they really need people to be signing up. Fourth one offers puts a guaranteed minimum.
Okay.
Gross. So that gives you a starting point, I suppose. Yeah. I'll do one more just for interest. Competitive salary.
Okay, there we go. Just once in the first 5 then. Okay, it's quite interesting.
Yeah. But one of them says one of them just says discuss an application as well. But I always like this when I'm always amused by this, that when they say competitive salary with paid holidays at Christmas, Easter, and local national holidays, well, yeah, that's normal. And then full social security coverage, which again you kind of think, well, yes,
legal requirements,
taxes, to get out of that. So, and I think, especially when I'm looking at this one particular advert at the moment, it can be very specific about exactly what they require from you. Well, if they're going to be that specific about what they're requiring from you, I think it's reasonable to tell them what you require from them, or at least ask what they're prepared to pay for you.
Exactly, yeah. If you had one tip to give people for doing English teacher job interviews, what would it be?
I think it's what we've been talking about for the whole pod today, actually, is that you need to know what's important to you.
Completely agree with that, yeah.
What's going to bother you? If you really, really, really cannot work with smart interactive whiteboards, and that's what's in every classroom, it doesn't matter how wonderful the salary, it doesn't matter how lovely the kids look on the website, it doesn't matter how much you get on with the person that interviewed you. If you cannot use those whiteboards and you would rather, teach with chalk, that's not the job for you.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. As long as you know what you like in a classroom, I think that you should just ask away until you sort of work out. You need to get a feeling for who you're talking to.
Yeah.
And are you going to enjoy your daily routine there?
I remember when I did my PGCE, having to give a presentation on things that I'd learned. I remember that I summed it up with that old expression, know thyself.
Oh, that's good.
And to be a teacher, you have to know yourself. You have to know, what is it that the kids are going to do, or the adults for that matter, in ELT, that's going to really wind you up, that you need to be aware of, look for, and then control. What is it that they're going to do that's going to make you cry with joy? So you can look for and be prepared for that as well. And all these things, but also, what is it that you like and don't like about the classroom or the working environment? So that things that you can control, and things that you can't, you can say, actually, this isn't going to work.
It actually says quite a lot for teaching in general, is that self-observation and self-determination and self-thought, basically on, it happens every time your kids leave the classroom. You're like, okay, how did that lesson go? It's the same for job interviews as well. It's like, what do I want from it? Yeah. It's
a people profession, and if you're not thinking about how
the effect that it's having on someone or something.
Yeah, but also you're a person as well. It isn't just about the 10 little faces looking back at you. You're one of the people in the room. It's a people profession. You're not thinking about how you function as well as how they function. Then there's a massive thing that's not working.
Yeah.
I think that needs to come across in the interview, that you're worried about people. People, when there's interview questions, what are your strengths? I always say relationships, and I always say relationships with the caveat that I know it's cliche.
Yeah,
but it's also true.
Rapport is actually the most important thing there is going.
If I don't pick up the course book until the middle of October, I'm not worried. I'll catch up.
Because I have a specific pedagogical reason for doing that.
Yeah, but what I was meaning is that, in a sense, that I'm teaching long enough to be able to look at a course book and figure out what I can, skip past a little bit or whatever it might be if I need to. But the important thing for me is getting to know the students I'm teaching. Because as soon as I know the students I'm teaching, everything else becomes easier.
Yeah.
Knowing what they actually need from the course book becomes easier. So yeah, if it's 2 weeks in and that's when I really start going with the book, that's fine. It's way more important to get the relationships ready so that everything else follows.
Yeah, that first week of classes is the most important relationship builder because everybody's sort of still gauging everybody.
Yeah.
But that's for another
Sounds to me
episode
like
in
we
season 2.
I was about to say, it sounds to me like we are providing a trailer for the first episode of season 2,
Yeah.
which we are. So, I think we're going to wrap up there. Alan, you've got some questions that you're going to share.
Yeah, so just in case anybody's interested, I have that list of about 20 plus questions that we'll put on the website as another blog post, just like the show notes, for any other teachers who might want to have a look at it, just to see if it gives them any ideas.
That's great, thank you. And so we're wrapping up for the summer at this point. We are already thinking about season 2, which we'll bring to you in the autumn. Have a great summer.
Yeah, enjoy. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Phrasally Verbocious. If you'd like to get in touch, you can tweet us
At PhrasallyV on Twitter.
You can email us
PhrasallyVerbocious@gmail.com.
You can check out our show notes online at
PhrasallyVerbociouspodcast.blogspot.com.
And please like, review and comment us on your podcast subscription service of choice. Goodbye.
Goodbye.